The office was quiet, almost eerily so, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the occasional rustle of papers on the polished mahogany desk. But in that stillness, a storm was about to erupt. "Please, don't hit me, I'm already hurt," cried a voice trembling with fear and desperation. It was the voice of Alexander Vey, the young, ambitious CEO whose empire had been built on cold calculations and ruthless decisions. His normally sharp eyes were wide with panic, and beads of sweat dotted his forehead. He stood frozen, unable to move, staring at the towering figure in front of him, Michael Rourke, a single father whose presence alone commanded both respect and fear. If you believe in kindness and second chances, make sure to hit like, share this story, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles so these stories can reach more hearts. Michael's expression was unreadable, yet there was a storm brewing behind his calm demeanor. He was not here to threaten Alexander, though every inch of his physique, broad shoulders, muscular arms, and the kind of stature that made people instinctively step back suggested he could. But Michael's fists were lowered, and his eyes, though intense, held a flicker of sadness. He was not a man of rage, he was a man driven by justice, by a need to protect what he loved. It had all started weeks ago, in a city that never slept, under the harsh glare of skyscrapers and the ceaseless bustle of corporate life. Alexander had made a decision, one of many in his life, but this one would change everything. A factory, employing hundreds of workers, many single parents struggling to make ends meet, was set to close due to profit margins. Michael had a daughter, Hannah, a bright-eyed little girl of 7, and she often talked about her father's co-workers' children, about how unfair it was that their parents might lose everything. Michael had tried to reason with the company through letters, through emails, through pleas that fell on deaf ears. And then came the night that changed the course of their lives. Michael had received a call in the dead of night, a wrong number, at first glance. But there was a faint, distressed voice of someone calling for help. He didn't pause to question it, he grabbed his coat and rushed out into the crisp morning air, his mind racing. He arrived at Alexander's office, a building that looked untouchable in the daylight, its glass panels reflecting the rising sun. The doors opened before he could knock, and there Alexander stood, holding a legal document, ready to fire yet another batch of innocent employees. Michael didn't wait for explanations. He confronted Alexander with a voice that carried authority tempered by desperation. "You don't know who you're hurting." Michael shouted, his hands trembling as he waved the papers that spelled the doom of so many lives. "You think this is just business, but these are people with families, dreams, and hope. And you're tearing it all apart." Alexander laughed nervously, trying to hide the fear creeping up his spine. He was used to people bowing to him, used to authority, but there was something in Michael that didn't bend. His voice faltered as he replied, "You don't understand, this is how business works, people get hurt all the time, it's part of the process." Michael stepped closer, and in that moment, Alexander noticed the deep scars on Michael's hands, faint but visible, remnants of a life filled with struggle. The kind of struggle Alexander had only ever read about in business biographies. "You don't get it because you've never had to fight for every meal, for every little thing your child needs," Michael said, his voice low but firm. "I've worked nights, sacrificed everything for my daughter. And now, you're going to destroy the lives of people who have families just like mine." Alexander's confidence wavered, replaced by a hollow panic. "Please. I can't. I'm already under so much pressure. His voice cracked, his body trembling. I'm hurt." It was then that Michael stepped forward, lowering his gaze for just a moment to meet Alexander's. "I know what it's like to be hurt," he said, softly, almost a whisper. "But hurting others won't heal your pain. You can make this right, or you can continue down this path and live with the regret for the rest of your life." The room seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. Alexander looked around, seeing the cold, polished office in a new light, imagining the lives his decisions would affect. His mind was spinning, heart pounding, but Michael's words struck deeper than any corporate reprimand ever could. And then, with a courage that surprised even him, Michael revealed the truth that no one had expected. "I'm not just a man who cares about employees," Michael said, his voice steady now. "I'm someone you've met before. Do you remember the orphanage where you once donated that ridiculous sum of money and took a photo for the press?" Alexander nodded faintly, confused. "I was there. I was the man who ensured every donation you made actually reached the kids, Who fed the children you thought would never remember your name? I'm the man who saved those smiles you flaunted in your ads, and I'm still fighting for those kids' futures. And now, I'm fighting for these people, for their children, just like I fight for mine every day. Alexander's eyes widened, recognition and guilt crashing into him simultaneously. For a man who had always lived in the glow of power and recognition, this revelation pierced through his armor. Michael was not just any protester or angry parent, he was the one who had quietly held him accountable long before this moment, and he had not stopped fighting for those who needed him most. The tension in the room shifted, from fear and aggression to a fragile, trembling understanding. Michael took a slow step back, his eyes never leaving Alexander's. You have a choice now, he said. You can continue hurting people to fill your own emptiness, or you can use the power you have to do something that actually matters. To save lives, not destroy them. For a long moment, neither man spoke. The city outside continued its relentless pace, oblivious to the quiet but monumental confrontation taking place in that office. Finally, Alexander dropped the legal documents onto his desk, the sound echoing like a small victory in a battlefield of conscience. His hands shook, and he wiped a tear he hadn't realized had fallen. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted, his voice raw, vulnerable in a way Michael had never heard before. Michael softened, allowing a faint smile to touch his lips. You start by listening. You start by caring. And then, you act. That's all anyone can do. One step at a time. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the change began. Alexander worked to reverse the decisions that would have ruined so many families. He met personally with the employees, heard their stories, saw their children, and in their eyes, he began to see himself, or at least the man he wanted to become. Michael remained a steady presence, not just as a witness but as a guide, a reminder of the stakes beyond the balance sheets. And through it all, Hannah, with her infectious laughter and curious questions, became a bridge between two worlds, the innocence of childhood and the heavy, often unforgiving weight of corporate responsibility. One bright afternoon, Michael and Alexander walked through the refurbished factory floor, sunlight streaming through the large windows. Children played outside during their recess, parents waved as they noticed the CEO walking among them, genuinely present. Alexander's hand hovered near his chest, as if trying to feel the unfamiliar sensation of pride and humility mingling. Michael caught his eye and nodded, a silent acknowledgement of battles fought and lessons learned, and in that moment, Alexander understood something he had never grasped before: strength wasn't measured by wealth, by titles, or by fear induced in others. Real strength, true courage, was measured by the capacity to be kind, to change, and to heal. Michael had not only saved his employees' livelihoods but had reminded Alexander of the man he had once dreamed of being, before greed and ambition clouded his path. Months later, in a small ceremony honoring the factory workers, Alexander stood beside Michael, humbled, grateful, and deeply changed. I almost lost myself, he admitted to the gathered crowd. But thanks to a man who refused to let me destroy lives, I found a better way. I found kindness, accountability, and a reminder that second chances are worth every effort. Michael, watching his daughter dance among the other children, felt a quiet satisfaction settle in his heart. He had fought for justice, for kindness, for a future that mattered not just for his family but for everyone touched by Alexander's choices. And as he glanced back at the CEO, he saw the man truly reborn, a man willing to wield power with conscience and compassion. As the sun dipped gently over the city, painting the glass towers in shades of gentle gold and soft blue, a sense of peace lingered. Not the peace of endings neatly tied up, but the peace of hope, of lives transformed, of hearts opened and wounds acknowledged. Alexander had been hurt, yes, but now he was learning that healing could come through the courage of others, and sometimes, it came from the most unexpected places. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles so more stories like this can reach souls in need of hope and inspiration.